Good morning, students of class 10th. In the previous video, we have discussed that what was development and what was sustainable development, and with that, we have completed our first chapter of economics. Now, we will move on to history and we will study about the rise of nationalism in Europe. Okay, so before understanding that what was the reasons for rise of nationalism in Europe, let us first of all discuss that what is nationalism, what do you understand by the term nationalism, and how is it helpful so that a country can grow or a country can develop. Okay, so let us discuss. See, what is nationalism? Nationalism is basically a of feeling proud about your self nation, that in whatever country you live in, you must feel proud about that. That is nationalism. But the idea of nationalism was not started just in that manner. Okay, earlier you must have read that earlier there was king's rule, right? In any country there was earlier king's rule only. In many countries, whether it is India, whether it is America, whether it was Europe, or whether it was France, or whether it was Britain, right? In the many European countries also there was king's rule. But how was the king's rule established? Let us first of all discuss that. See, earlier the people, before the beginning of the standard of civilized communities, earlier people were hunter gatherers. We all know that, right? In the history also we have learned, we have studied that before the starting of the civilization, the people were basically hunter gatherers. Now, when they started living in their communities, now when they started living in their communities, they started making leaders. That in the community, when there was some people of the community, and they used to be the leaders, that the most powerful person used to be the leaders, and they used to fight for their crops, for food, for resources, right? Now, from them only a king was made, right? First of all, a king was made. Now that community became kingdoms, and when those kingdoms were formed and they were broadened in size, they became mighty in size. Then there were nations formed. Okay, and before the people started to have a feeling of nationalism in them, there was a feudal system of governance, right? There was a system of feudal system of governance. Now let us understand what was the feudal system of governance. Okay, see, the feudal system of governance was a system in which there was a king in the feudal system of governance, and all the powers rested in the hands of the feudal lords. Basically, the power was in the hand of feudal lords. They were basically the landlords of the area, and most of the power was in the hand of feudal lords, and the governance was also in the hand of the king. There was a king, but the whole power was in the hand of the feudal lords. Now, as there was power in the hand of the feudal lords, those feudal lords used to make their own rules for the people, and the people of that area were divided, right? But later on, the idea of nation state started. The idea of nation state started, that now the people were thinking that their state belonged to some king, and they were also a part of the state, and from there only the idea of nationalism started. The basically idea of nationalism, as I have already told you, that nationalism means when a person have a feeling that his country is very good, and he should have proud of his country, and he should have a feeling of patriotism towards the country. That is the feeling of nationalism. Now we are going to talk about liberal nationalism. That what is liberal nationalism. Okay, before starting liberal nationalism, let us understand what is the meaning of the word liberal. Liberalism means that it stands for the end of monarchy or autocracy or clerical privileges, governance through a constitution and a parliament, right? Like a system that we have in India right now, that the people are liberal here. Means the system of governance that is used right now have a written law that we know as constitution. There is a written law. There is no monarchy. Right, that system is called as liberal nationalism. See, liberal nationalism defines the nation as follows: an association of persons who identify themselves as belonging to the nation, who have equal and shared political rights from the point that they should have equal sh- share of political rights, means that there is democracy in the country, who have allegiances to similar political procedures, and they have all the rights to get their political procedures, that they have the right to choose their own government, they have the right to make the laws for themselves. So that this is liberal nationalism. According to the principle of liberal nationalism, the nation is not based on common ethnic ethnicity, but is a political entity whose core identity is not ethnicity. Right, means that the nation is not just made by its flag, it is made by the people living in the country. The people living in the country are the nation for the country. Right. The concept of nationalism is explained by Ernest Renan in the lecture on What is Nation, where he defined a nation as a daily referendum dependent on the will of its people to continue living together. Right. I hope you must have understood that what is liberal nationalism. That when people of a country live there, they have a feeling of nationality towards it, and they think that not just the flag or the national symbols are the nation, but the people living in the country are the nation for the country. Right. In simple terms, nationalism is a feeling of belongingness to a national community where the community is not restricted by an identity related to criteria of race, religion, culture, or language, but includes all those who reside within the nation's border. Means the nation belongs to the people of the country, and the people of the country are the nation, not the national symbols are the nation. Okay, the idea of liberal nationalism could thus be summarized as including the following: governance by consent and through a constitution, means there should be a constitution, and the governance should be made by a democratic procedure. Next, few end of autocracy and clerical privileges of a few, means that everyone should be equal, there should be a right to equality to everyone in the nation. Freedom of the individual, every person have freedom towards himself, that he have the freedom to express himself, he has the freedom to equality. Right. And equality for all before the law, and inviolability of private property. Right, ki every person have a private property and every person have a right towards it. So I hope in the current video you would have understood that what is nationalism and what is meaning of liberal nationalism, because it was the main ideology that derived the European nations, and the nationalism in European nations was at its peak, that lead to the revolutions. Okay, now we will study the about France in the next video, that how France made its nationalism and how the people of France were enlightened. Till then, we will meet in the next video, students. Till then, stay home and stay safe. Thank you.